Welcome to my YouTube channel English Linguistic World. Today we will discuss about difference between spoken and written language. Language can be mainly divided into two main aspects, spoken language and written language. There are many differences between spoken and written language. Spoken language involves speaking and listening skills, whereas written language involves reading and writing skills. The main difference between spoken and written language is that written language is more formal and complex than spoken language. Now we will study what is spoken language. Spoken language is the language we speak. It is often spontaneous. Spoken language is used for interaction. The two speakers or the listeners and the speaker are often in the same place. Thus, they can correct any mistake they make and change their utterances as they can correct any mistake they make and change their utterances as they go along. With the expectation of scripted speeches, spoken language tend to be full of incomplete sentences, repetitions, interruptions, and corrections. Speakers also use gestures, tone, pitch, volume to create additional meaning in spoken language. Unless the conversation is recorded, there is no record of the spoken language conversational that took place. Some forms and informal grammatical structure are also specific to spoken language. For example, words and phrases like my bad, you know, busted, and not, which are sometimes used in spoken language, are rarely used in written language. What is written language? Written language is the language we use to write. The main two language skills used in written language is reading and writing skills. Written language is not transient like spoken language. It tends to be permanent since there are written record of it. Once you have written something, it is not very easy to change it. Another interesting thing about written language is that the readers and writers are usually communicating across time and space, unlike in spoken language. Written language is typically more formal, complex, and intricate than spoken language. It may contain longer sentences in complex tenses. However, some forms of written language, like instant messages and informal letters, are closer to spoken language. Written language can make use of features like punctuation, headings, layouts, colors, etc. to make a message clearer. Since written language does not receive immediate feedback, it should be very clear and unambiguous. Now we will glance at in table form in spoken language versus written language. Spoken language involve speaking and listening skills. Written language involve reading and writing skills. Language is older than the written language, and written language is not older than the spoken language. Spoken language is more formal and simple than written language, and written language is more formal and complex than spoken language. Spoken language mostly used between two people when or in the same place. Written language promotes communications across time and space. Spoken language can use tone, pitch, volume. On the other hand, written language can use heading, punctuation, layouts. Spoken language temporary since there is no records, but written language is permanent because written language have records. Spoken language contain repetitions, incomplete sentences, interactions, and corrections. On the other hand, written language often grammatically correct and may contain long sentence in complex tenses. Now we will glance difference between spoken and written language clearly with broader aspects. There are many differences that can be noted between written and spoken language, sometimes speaking in a way that language would normally be written, or writing in a way that people speak can lead to language sounding strange, unnatural, or inappropriate. When speaking, people tend to include contractions such as I will and don't that tend not to be appropriate in formal written language. There are also many slang words that are popped into spoken language that, depending on the context, are not strictly correct in written language. There are other language conventions that are constantly broken in spoken language, which are more strictly adhered to written language. Example of this include beginning sentence with but or because and ending sentences with prepositions. Some grammar tends to be used almost exclusively and not in speech used to narrate some time and therefore is rarely used in spoken English. For example, he had been thinking for taking a summer house in England for some years before he met Valeria. It is possible to use this grammar construction in spoken English, but it is really done so. Since spoken languages much more dynamic and immediate, there is much less precision in it. We will often hear native speakers make grammar slips that they would never make in written language. Mistakes such as how much apples are left occur when speakers are forming sentences and changing ideas rapidly. Since written text can be revised and thought out more thoroughly than spoken language, they can present communicative ideas in a precise, well ordered, and presented in a more sophisticated way, engaging higher level vocabulary and ideas than is often presented in spoken language. Conversely, spoken language can sometimes be more communicative as it allows for clarification and additional information in a way that a stand alone written document does not. Often it is the case that the tone, intention, or meaning of a writing piece of a language may be unclear. In spoken language, you communicate with more than the word you use. Tone and body language add a significant amount of information to the language receiver. Clear example of this relate to usage of email, which is often written in conversational language but without the extra language cues that accompany spoken language. The writer's intentions can be misinterpreted. Thank you for watching my videos. We will meet in next lecture. Goodbye.